And quiet mode off. Finally. Hello, brothers, nation. And this is, what if 007 and John Wick trained Izuku Midoriya to be the next big boss? Part 2. Yes, that's right, part 2. Finally. That also should be a channel meme. Finally. I don't care what people say about my crass nature. Or just me being crass in general. I like being crass because it helps with the stress that I sometimes get. It helps alleviate it. And it just helps in general. I don't care if you people say anything about it because it helps me. And I don't care if you people are like, how in the world could it possibly help you? Because, like, if it helps me, it helps me. Okay, guys? So, I'm going to be crass if I'm going to be crass. Okay, now that's settled. Yeah, what if 007 and John Wick trained Izuku Midoriya to be the next big boss? Now, this is part 2. Basically, part 1 was the beginning of the explaining of everything and basically getting everything down. To basically the start of the anime. To where basically somewhere with MI6 basically they have this certain base where MI6 and the people that, were working with John Wick, basically, this sort of like joint venture, like place that they have. They basically also use this as sort of like containment for a certain individual known as Agent 57. And yes, he is an OC. He is an original character. There's going to be a lot of original characters in this. Just deal with it. Okay? Just deal with it and we will be fine. However, Agent 57 is sort of a clone in basically the way that he's not, a clone of basically 007 and John Wick, basically putting them in the same person, basically fusing them together. He's not the same James Bond that they're cloning with John Wick. It's the Pierce Brosnan one, because I'm pretty sure that the Pierce Brosnan one is the one that they used for the GoldenEye game and the GoldenEye movie. Pierce Brosnan. So that James Bond, that one, that's the one that they're using for Agent 57. So basically, they cycle through like agents. Basically, they go through however many James Bonds, however many 007s. Not really how many James Bonds, but how many 007s. because, they can go through all many double O's. They really stopped going through 006s after the death of Trevelyan. In GoldenEye. Basically, in GoldenEye, whenever Trevelyan died, they stopped going through 006s. And just, kept with 007. And well, the 007 that they're using for this project, apparently, Project, Agent 57, or just Project 57, is what they're calling it, Project 57, the one that created Agent 57, is basically the Pierce Brosnan, because that one is the one they used for GoldenEye, apparently. If to believe Brain Scratch, because when they play GoldenEye, the multiplayer mode, all of them fighting each other. One of them was James Bond. They mentioned something about Pierce Brosnan being James Bond, and apparently Pierce Brosnan is that game's James Bond. If I'm to believe them, basically, instead of using the current James Bond, they're using the Pierce Brosnan one. Basically, cycle through 007s. They stopped doing 006s after the death of Trevelyan in GoldenEye. And basically, they just went through basically, GoldenEye, Trevelyan, he fought Trevelyan and this whole thing with the cradle. That's nice. They just thought of it, not nice. This is nice. So we'll do this. The Pierce Brosnan 007, that one. They're using that one and John Wick. They're using basically stuff from both of those, not the current 007, but the Pierce Brosnan 007 and John Wick, in order to create Agent 57. But they currently know him now as 0057. So they basically have a more or less loose cannon as, at this time, 007 was still with MI6, Secret Service. The British Secret Service. And had no idea about 0057. Literally, 007 has no idea about 0057. The secret agent created from both John Wick and the Pierce Brosnan version of him, their stuff. Basically, John Wick and the Pierce Brosnan 007, but basically a clone of both of them, smashed together, a fusion of both of them. And since the Pierce Brosnan version of him is no longer there, it's the current version. So yeah, basically, they just left that in the dust. Left the GoldenEye version in the dust. And they're now going with the current 007. But behind his back, they're basically using the 0057 as basically a fusion of Pierce Brosnan and 007 and, John Wick. John Wick only getting on because of, not only because of the shit with Izuku, but also because of the shit with the 0057. He's not actually getting on because of both reasons. Both reasons are happening because of him. Because basically, unknowingly, he's also getting on to 0057. but he's unknowingly doing this. John Wick is. But 007 is just, well, he was on MI6, now he's no longer on MI6. And basically, John Wick got on the same project as 007, because 007 was with him, basically, going on the same projects as him. And so, Agent 57 is now, well, at that place, breaking out of containment. Because the dudes that basically, they left him there to contain him are stupid. Idiots. And basically, just like, you could have left a rock to contain him and it would have been better security. I mean, these people are freaking stupid. And so Agent 57 breaks out no prob and is just standing there on the way. Basically, he sees the waters. Basically the water. Like, this place is in the middle of the freaking ocean. This MI6 and whatever, like, place like John Wick used to be part of, like, Assassin Place. Basically, joint venture place. And basically, it's in the middle of the water. And so, basically, that's like a last-ditch resort to keep Agent 57 from, like, going anywhere. And basically, since Agent 57 is part of Pierce Brosnan 007, he can contact things that like Pierce Brosnan 007 would know about. And so, like, just contact one of his vehicles. And automatically do just freaking Audis. Like, did you forget that in the GoldenEye mission, he used a freaking boat? Did you forget that? That he would basically have contacts to that boat. Like on the freight mission. Like, you send him to a freight and a boat, that he could contact that boat, that he might be able to do that. Agent 57 might be able to do that because he's part Pierce Brosnan 007. Yeah, he's able to do that. And he does that right now. And basically does that, basically gets off and rides off into the distance. And basically, those people are just like, well, fuck. Looks like we're gonna have to bring this up with the current 007, even though we're not partnered anymore, because he left MI6. Fuck. Just like, they left 007, like 007 left MI6, and well, he's with, like, freaking John Wick right now, and John Wick doesn't really have anybody, and well, basically, they are tutoring this kid, Izuku Midoriya. He's currently going to this hero school, and basically, they have to give 007 and John Wick the news that Agent 57 has run amok, or is currently running amok, because of their stupidity. Not because of Bond's or John Wick's, but because of their stupidity. Agent 57, a clone of Pierce Brosnan 007, and John Wick, a clone of them, so basically would know everything that the Pierce Brosnan 007 and John Wick knows, and, well, chose that by basically getting the boat that Pierce Brosnan 007 had. Like, no prob. And just riding out of there. Riding out of the joint venture place. Oh, and also rigging it with explosives not so long after. Like, Basically, it explodes not too long after the call ends. They just hear an explosion right at the end of the call. And, well, 007's just like, well, probably exploded. You think? And John Wick is like, well, do you not think? And 007 is like, don't call me an idiot. I know it exploded. Well, then why did... And John Wick is like, well, then why did you... Never mind. I'm just not going to question anymore. And 007 will be like, good. And basically, since, like, they are, like, legendary assassins, no hero is going to freaking... No pro hero is going to freaking get in their freaking shit. Not even All Might. And so they just are allowed to go to the observation deck. God, I can't work today. And basically, you know, Izuku Intelligence Masterclass, he had no problem doing that test and acing it. No prob. Hell, he even fixed some of the shit that they had, you know, purposely mislead. And, you know, President Mike tells Nesu this, and Nesu's like, he has to look for himself, and he's like, he literally tells Mike that he's gonna have to look for himself. And I thought it was like, he looks over Nesu's shoulder, and that's not really hard to do considering the height of Nesu. And, well, All Might and Midnight aren't really all that too hard to look over Nesu's shoulder because of his height. So, yeah. Basically, they can see that too. They see that basically President Mike's telling the truth. Like, damn, this kid is good. Let's see if he's good as a practical portion too. And basically, 007 and John Wick taught basically Izuku everything that they know that, you know, he'd be able to learn without, like, his body exploding. And basically their most basic gun, like, for each. So, like, 007's most basic gun, and John Wick's most basic gun. I know that Wicks can fire off more things per, like, I think, round. But, 007's basically can only be fired by him because of some thing that has on him. So they each have their own advantages. And well, even though 007 and John Wick aren't exactly happy about this, has to use rubber bullets. But the way that he fires, it basically makes the fact that rubber bullets non-existent. Because the way that he decides to fire basically makes up the fact that they're rubber bullets. And you know, the speed that he's moving at. You know, Izuku. Basically his secondary style, they decide to make it his secondary style, is basically a mix of 007's and John Wick's. Whatever 007 style doesn't cover, John Wick style covers. Whatever John Wick style doesn't cover, 007 style covers. So basically that's his secondary. And his primary, they decide to make CQC. There's basic CQC, like anyone like Snake or Boss like would know, honestly. CQC. So his primary is CQC, and his secondary is basically a mix of 007 and John Wick. So you have basically everything in there. So it's basically his primary fighting style is CQC, and his secondary fighting style is basically everything that 007 and John Wick know that would be able to be used, considering these are still children. Like, they may be like 15, but like, they're still children. Guys, they're still children. And well, basically, with the fact that it's basically like a secondary is basically 007 and John Wick combined, and his primary is CQC, like basically Snake and Big Boss, like the stuff that they use. No wonder he's gonna freaking like destroy all of like 1-pointers, 2-pointers, 3-pointers. He just master classes. And even like the 0-pointer, whenever it comes up, he comes with a plan on the ball because of his Foxhound bloodline. That they teach him about the fact that he has that and how to utilize it the best way. And like all situations that he might come across in this exam. Considering the people that, well, are, you know, the exam. What he might come across. And in case he comes across something that isn't on, well, their thing, how to, you know, go with the thing, you know. If it's something that he didn't expect, you know, to go with the unexpected. And basically, masterclass it. Just like he would masterclass anything else that he did expect. And so, Izuku, even the 0-pointer gets destroyed. And, well, Ochako gets helped. Masterclassly, might I add. And the way dude is dressed is like Snake suit in Brawl if it was a freaking dress suit like how James Bond and John Wick have. Only he doesn't have the freaking face paint. And the eye patch. Like, he doesn't have the face paint or the eye patch. But he basically has everything if it was like a dress thing, like how Bond and Wick have it. So basically, Snake's special skin tight suit, if it was like how Bond and, you know, John Wick have. That's how he came in. And so basically, the next thing is the first day. And the first day also master classes, because dude is literally, his primary is CQC and his secondary is a fusion of 007 and John Wick. How is he going to lose any of that shit? Like, he may not be first, but he may he's not going to be last. If he isn't first, he's still not going to be last. Like, if his primary is CQC and his second is freaking 007 / John Wick style. So the first day of UA is basically a piece of cake. Without even having to try all that much. Basically a piece of cake. He doesn't even need one for all. He does not need a quirk in order to be badass. And basically, the thing after that is, well, the group things. Because here's versus villains mock battles. And it goes basically, Izuku and Ochako, Bakugo and Ida. And Ochako makes him light, and he sticks to the wall. Or basically, ceiling. He sticks to the ceiling. And Ochako basically does not have a lot of stamina, but she's able to keep him long enough to where he basically lands on his head. And, well, she is able to touch the bomb. But Izuku and Bakugo, basically, with Izuku's CQC and his secondary being 007 / freaking John Wick, how the hell do you think Bakugo is going to touch him? With just like he may be a master tactician, but his fucking secondary is James Bond and John Wick. And his primary is CQC on the level of freaking snakes and bosses. The fuck do you think Bakugo is going to be able to touch his ass? And so whenever it comes to... Holy fuck. Whenever it actually comes... Actually, a funny thing, whenever it comes like the whole thing, like, clothes make the pros. Like that. Design how it is, basically, without the eye patch or the, face paint makeup. Basically, Snake's skin-tight suit, but in, the Bond, Wick type thing. That's basically it. That's basically his hero suit. Well, as they know for now. Because then there's the freaking USJ. And Shigaraki and Kirogiri have to get in the mix. Hero 13 and Aizawa get thrashed by the Nomu and Kirogiri, respectively. Ish. Ida somehow gets, able to get the heroes, I guess. But Izuku is shouting orders left and right like a military commander. Little do they know, this has been drilled into him by his parents. His new parents. 007 and John Wick. To shout orders like a military commander if he needs to. If need be. So, basically, things are a lot more organized, and, basically, by the time All Might does get there, things do look a lot more on the side of the heroes than on the side of the villains whenever, actually All Might does get there. It actually does look like the heroes have been holding their own pretty damn well. And that's because, most of the class do listen to Izuku. And even if they don't have the greatest quirks, his commands basically make it to where even if they don't have the best quirks, they can use what they do have to basically make it to where that doesn't matter. And, well, basically, after the USJ, we have, well, Hosu to deal with, because, of course, not wanting to be too obvious, Izuku, of course, goes to Gran Torino, even though he doesn't have one for all. He still has that military flexibility that allows him just barely, get on to Gran Torino. And so Gran Torino was like, okay, kid, you got some spunk. I'll give you that. And so, in the middle of whatever they're doing, they get an alert. And so, while they're traveling, well, basically, some Nomu attack, and then separation, and then Stain and Ida. The fuck, man. But basically, Stain is just a heartless killer, not a military commanded kid who will basically swap with the best of them, if need be. And Stain does not expect this from just a little freaking 15-year-old kid. So he gets surprised and basically knocked on his ass. And the true heroes come, and he gets overwhelmed, and he has his speech, still, which inspires some people, and they get on the League of Villains, and the League of Villains bolster their ranks, and blah blah blah. Basically, most of the story goes on and is in canon. Basically, even the Camino Ward goes on in canon. But the overhaul arc, how it changes. Because overhaul apparently this time didn't feel like Shigaraki was enough. No, overhaul decided, if there's one thing I gotta think about, is extra help where it counts. That extra help being in where the heroes would least expect it. Agent 57 had just docked on land, and apparently he had found himself a Yakuza base. The Yakuza base where overhaul was. And basically, expanded some territory. That territory being Shadow Moses Island. And basically, so they decided to move their whole operation over to Shadow Moses. Because Agent 57 is the strongest mofo there. Even Overhaul has to acknowledge that he's stronger than him. Even him. And since Shigaraki's basically like, oh, he's even acknowledging that, so yeah, I'm gonna do that too. Okay. League of Villains, let's detour. And so the League of Villains actually detour a little and go over to Shadow Moses. And so this gets a little bit of a harumph. And the heroes. Izuku thinks it's finally time. If he gets rid of Agent 57, then there will be disorder within the Yakuza and the villains. But first, Shigaraki will want some payback. Probably on Overall's head, since there's no Agent 57 to take it out on. And God forbid he actually attack Agent 57. So, it is had. He goes on and off and basically trying to find this dude. And Agent 57 isn't hard to find. Actually, he's around where, Frank Yeager was. Whenever you find him in, Metal Gear Solid 1. He's around where Frank Yeager was. Killing off dudes. Left and right. And, well, Izuku, it doesn't take him long to get there. Now he's got to test his real strength against somebody who's actually going to be a fucking challenge for once. With the USJ, he just had to yell frickin' orders, even with the frickin' Nomu. And even at Hosu, Nomu was just a distraction for the real piece, which was frickin' Stain. And he didn't even really all that much of a challenge. But Agent 57, oh, that's a different story altogether. That's because he's actually a fucking challenge. So much so that Izuku almost dies. If it wasn't for the fact that, well, Wick actually sacrifices himself in order to basically leave Agent 57 kind of one-handed. Yes, it actually takes one of Agent 57's freaking arms off. It's regeneration, but very slow regeneration that he somehow managed to adapt to. A very new power that he wasn't supposed to have. I guess the crackhead scientists, were responsible for that. His new regeneration, newfound regeneration. Basically, his entire right freaking arm just got lopped off at the price of the life of freaking John Wick. Basically, with Wick just being like, well, I guess that's checkmate, motherfucker. As he just takes the dude's right arm off, as he falls, knowing that he's not going to live this one. He just falls off the island, the entire island, knowing that he's not going to live through this. He's most likely going to get eaten, or if not eaten, die on one of the sharp rocks. Because, it is Shadow Moses Island. So, yeah, Agent 57 is pissed, and rightfully so. He got his right arm taken off. His entire right arm, in fact. And 007 is basically having to hoist around an almost dead Izuku Midoriya, because he thought he could take on Agent 57. And basically, rightfully so, because he had the tools. It's just he didn't have, the military skill. Or does he? Bond tries to, fend off Agent 57, basically telling Izuku to get the fuck out of there. that he'll hold him off as long as possible. And that, well, he's basically lopped off into an elevator. Basically made no choice but to leave. Unless he wants to cut down the elevator. But that wouldn't be very smart because then he would die too. Because he's bleeding out and Bond didn't do a very good job on, the wounds. And, well, just Agent 57 with only one left arm and two legs, and basically most of his face, like courtesy of Bond actually, most of his face is damaged beyond repair of his regeneration. His regeneration actually barely able to repair any of his face because it's fucked up so bad by Bond. Courtesy of Bond, he actually did get his face fucked up beyond recognition. And it's just like he is only able to get around to Bond because of both of his legs still working. Even though, as they are going, they're slowly, losing, limb power. The muscles are tearing. Because Bond and, Wick didn't just go for the arms, they went for the legs as well. Before, Bond, went for the face, and then Wick go for the sacrifice move, taking the arm off. Whenever Bond went for the face, he actually did something without dying. But Wick just, the entire fucking arm, and just sacrificed himself. Even though he probably didn't have to do that. And, Bond is, constantly, telling himself he didn't have to do that. But, Agent 57 just slams him around and just freaking tosses him like a sack of potatoes. And just, Nemesis, he just, in Resident Evil 3, he just, makes it look easy. And he just beating him down. And it's just, it looks painful, and it is. For Bond. And, Agent 57 just looks happy. And, basically, he has something on, the open gash wound in between, his shoulder and something else that he basically just smashed in there before, Wick sacrificed himself. And he's basically, Agent 57 is fuck's so funny. And then he realizes what he smashed in there was a taser. And they're just fuck! Ah! And he just starts falling backwards. But then he gets back up, with one arm. Because the other one is, paralyzed. Except for the part where it flexes and the thing falls out. And basically the thing was a freaking, phone, but it, the phone is actually a taser. Basically, his entire left arm is his entire left arm is limp. And so he uses his right foot to big boot him in the face. Big boot Bond in the face. But he grabs on to that leg and then grabs onto the other leg And then just like Cloverleaf slams, just like gets up, like forces himself up, and gets up and like, BAM! Like Bond forces himself up, like Bond doesn't even know how, like he supports himself by getting his back onto like one of the walls, and he like is like barely able to stand, but he's still up. And then just 57 is just like supporting himself as well, and he gets up, and basically his arm was tasered so bad that it basically fried off. So one of them was ripped off, the other one fried off. He has no arms now, Agent 57, and basically both legs. So he just spears Bond. He tries to, but Bond goes like, "Olay!" And basically he goes off and into the ocean. But then he crawls all the way back up. All the way from everything. Like all the slices. Like you see him ripped to shreds like the freaking Terminator. And it looks awful. It looks horrible. But he climbs up the freaking wall of the place. But then Bond remembers one thing. And basically, Agent 57 is like trying to open his mouth, trying to say something. And then Bond gets the exact right idea. To freaking end this monster once and for fucking all. But he falls. And the thing falls out of his hand. He can't move anymore. It hurts too much. And he feels his heart. Is it? No. And the elevator finally gets back up. Wait, is it getting back up? No. No, that's bad. Bad, Izuku, bad. And then he just sees Izuku like come back for him. And just as he gets to him, he's like, "You came back for nothing." And Izuku's like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" And then Bond feels his heart again. And just like, he feels nothing again. Ugh. His heart gave out. He went through so much pain that his heart gave out. Couldn't withstand it anymore. Agent 57 is just so strong that he broke Bond. After basically throwing John Wick to the wayside. And basically, Shigaraki had already, done the thing with Overhaul's hands, basically screwing him over already. Because basically, their entire clash wrecked the entire building, tossing them like freaking ragdolls. So basically, Overhaul couldn't even use it properly to begin with. So Shigaraki had ample time to just frack him up. And just the moment he realizes, freaking just pops out, heart pops out because it can't go anymore. And the fact that basically Suicide Dive, freaking his other dad, seeing all the red in the water, He knows that the sharks probably ate him. And just Izuku, just out of that final moment, just like... Just gives himself away to it. All of it. He sees. But he feels it too. The clicks. How many times do you have to click in order for it to be an explosive? The pen. Shoves it down Agent 57's gullet. After he's clicked the final time that you need to click. You click 3 times, it explodes. 007 was only able to click twice before he killed. So, Izuku clicks again. And then he shoves it down Agent 57's gullet. He doesn't care if heroes aren't supposed to kill. The blast sends him toppling away. But once he hit the wall, he just, with all of his might, supported himself up and onto his feet like a soldier would. And he knew that this would be his battlefield. Shadow Moses was his battlefield, where he would take life. Or he should. And Eri would be taken into custody, where she would be put with the right family. And everything would be dealt with the way it should be. Overhaul didn't really have all that much use for his quirk, because he didn't have his quirk anymore. Shigaraki had slipped away. Basically, Shadow Moses Island had yet been the site of bloodshed. Yet Izuku seemed, from all this fighting, once he had fell, something had fell out, actually. That he hadn't noticed at first because of all the adrenaline. He had to be rushed to a hospital, actually, because of it. His eye had actually fell out because of how much pressure and how much adrenaline and everything. He had gone so far, and everything just seemed to slow down and speed up at different intervals. So he couldn't really realize what had happened to him. What exactly had happened to him. He had lost his eye. Well, one of them. Though a technology built that Shadow Moses apparently still knew about. Some researchers that, well, were still a part of that Shadow Moses. They weren't going to be part of it for long. They had planned on moving to Outer Heaven. They didn't want to be part of Shadow Moses anymore. They wanted to be part of Outer Heaven. And with the inheritance now his, seeing as neither Bond or Wick were alive, Even if he hadn't fully become a hero yet, he would have outer heaven. There was no other person to take inheritance of it. His parents were gone. Well, his former parents. The ones who had been responsible for his birth. And 007 and John Wick were gone. And all of MI6 and most of, well, anything of John Wick was gone. All of it gone. Any sort of contacts really weren't child people. He would have to start anew and make his own contacts that he could trust. People that he felt were good enough to be a part of his outer heaven. And also, with those people, some contacts. You need contacts as long as other people to be a part of outer heaven, because those contacts would also be a part of outer heaven. He couldn't just do this as one man alone. He would need others. But he would also need to tell the world about outer heaven. This couldn't stay a secret from the world for long. The people needed to know, at least in some sort of capacity. Basically, after the whole incident with Overhaul, Outer Heaven became Izuku's Foley. And, well, whatever he decided to do with it was his choice. And, well, his first choice? Make Outer Heaven his home. Yes, he would be living in Outer Heaven. He would do everything there, pretty much. Unless he decided that there was another place that, he could do other operations. But for now, Outer Heaven was his singular, place. Unless there was some way that he could, refurbish Shadow Moses. He didn't know that he could. Well, at least automatically. But he really saw that Shadow Moses was the only other place that, he could. Though that would have to be at a later time. So, people really only knew that Shadow Moses was the only other place that Izuku had in mind, other than Outer Heaven. And since he really wasn't using Shadow Moses Island at the time, well, at least certain people thought that, though Izuku was technically using Shadow Moses Island. Just not in the way that people thought. He was making it towards where, it could be used. Everything was being, remodeled to where, not to where it would be like Outer Heaven, but to where it would at least be like a place that would be usable for what Izuku was planning. What Izuku was planning, he was going to be the Fox-Out hero, Big Boss. And whenever the heroes heard this, some heroes remembered the days, some heroes didn't. Some heroes never known of the days of Foxhound. Well, the Foxhound unit. And well, some of the heroes that generally knew about the days generally wished him good luck. That, well, since it was, turning his 16th birthday, and well, just around this time of his 16th birthday, he would be truly inheriting Outer Heaven and, well, getting Shadow Moses Island back to stat, so that it would eventually be a place that, he could do operations. He just had to fix up Shadow Moses Island, so, he also had to do the same thing with Outer Heaven. It's just that Outer Heaven was closer to being, 100% than Shadow Moses Island. Basically, anything after that after the whole squabble with Agent 57, well, MI6, unless it was more standard stuff, and also the other military operations that have to do anything with John Wick, unless it was also more standard stuff, weren't really around too much. And didn't really bother Izuku. And well, Izuku liked to think that, well, it'd be nice to get connections so that, this little eye patch could be more than an eye patch. And well, that becoming true more than he thought, and sooner than he thought. Because of someone by the name of Mei Hatsume. She would be very excited to help. And considering what class she's part of, Power Loader's class, this little eye patch returned to him as something, well, I didn't really know what to call it. But Izuku knew exactly what to call it now that he knew all the functionalities that basically Mei and Power Loader told her it basically had, and if he wanted to toy with it, he could, give it. Possibly. And well, he decided to tell them that if he, made any alterations or whatever, and he did, and whenever the final finished product ended up being laid bare, the solid eye. And Meg was really just too excited to be, one of Izuku's contacts on his solid eye. And so, Izuku decided, why the hell not? And well, Izuku's like, whenever you actually get into that, maybe. And well, Izuku's life as a hero had been something for him. And so, he decided basically, this whole provisionary license is a good thing. And hey, if I have a provisionary license and I go in as a soldier, basically that would allow me to get an actual license ahead of time. And Nezu actually, being behind him and he not knowing this, Izuku not knowing this, being like, actually, yes, that is true. And Izuku being like, oh, Nezu, I didn't see you. And the reason why I didn't call him Principal Nezu is because, well, what's about to happen? He literally just said, you can indeed do that. Just bump it up to an actual license, And Nezu senses he wants to do more with his license than just hero. Because technically what he's doing will be more than just any hero. He will be a soldier. He will be on the battlefield. He will be doing stuff. He will be going on missions. He won't be just doing hero work. He will literally be going out there like soldier work. Like the blood of a warrior flowing through his veins. So basically, getting assigned as a soldier through the military, basically bumping up his license. Through the military, he is actually able to bump up his license to what it would be if he were to have graduated fully from UA. Fully graduating him because, well, technically, he is at the state where he would be fully graduated. He is a soldier. He is a warrior. He is not someone to be trifled with. But he is right, he does need contacts. And more than just one, he needs like 3 at least. 3 contacts. And Nezu says he would be glad to be one of his contacts. I mean, having like the smartest person, like, it's said that he might just be the smartest person. I mean, high specs is his quirk. Well, And, well, Aizawa's like, you just need information gathering, kid. Well, that could be done in the night, too. Considering that Power Loader runs an entire class, and mine's almost fucking finished, well, I think I might be able to slide in. If you're not afraid of having your teacher being one of your contacts. That is. Well, previous teacher. I have to remember, you're a soldier now. So no more Aizawa Sensei. In fact, use my first name from now on. It's more befitting of a soldier. Right? And everyone's like, Nezu! And like, even like Mei Hatsume is like, don't just like Mei Hatsume something like a Mei! Because it's my first name. Mei. So basically, the contacts are all like Nezu, Shota, and Mei. Like, Izuku thinks he can have one more contact. And this person isn't even in class. So, basically, he's not cheating. This one, like, Aizawa had interest in them because, like, they were in the sports festival and they showed interest. Apparently. And, you know, if they showed interest, that could be something of use. I mean, if they say certain stuff in order to get someone riled up to answer their question, then they must have certain information, right? And everyone's like, well, you would need certain information in order to say certain things. Well, then, you're not exactly wrong, Izuku. Well, he is thinking about Shinso for a while, but then, like, he keeps on getting drawn back to the fact that Power Loader runs a class and Shota runs a class. One of those people out of one of those classes has to be good enough. Well, technically, you did pull Mei, and Mei is part of Power Loader's class. So you can pull, like, one of Shota's. Technically, is one of the Shotas, but, you know, special circumstances because of him. And Shota can't exactly fault that. You know, special circumstances. So, who is it? Instead of Shinso, who we were considering for a while, considering certain things, but decided someone else might be better. And he just says 2 words, Gossip Hound. And he's like, who better to get information or stuff that we might need for, like, contacts? Like, who would be better for contacts than a freaking Gossip Hound? And then people are like, Mina Ashido. And people are just, like, Izuku is just like, people can read me like a freaking book. Yes, it is Mina. And also, I kind of, since, my Mortal Kombat one on my other channel that I'm not really doing now has, kind of like a certain ship. And if I kept on doing my Mortal Kombat one, there would only be 2 ships with Mina. So, Mina as one of the basically a fourth contact. So Shota, Nezu, Shota, Nezu, alright, now I remember. Shota, Nezu, Mei, and Mina. Basically, the call is made. The principal basically himself, calls Mei over to the office. Mei is wondering if she's in trouble. Shota doesn't say anything, but he does come with her. People are wondering that's kind of suspicious. And basically, he actually comes into the office with her and takes a seat next to her. And basically, she also sees Mei, on the right of her, and on the left of, Mr. Aizawa. There's no one on the left, I guess Mei would be in the middle. Mei would just come from behind them and then, be in the middle. She would pull up a seat and be in the middle. And basically, they just talk about how since Izuku is rank of a soldier, he needs contacts. And they were all selected to be his contacts. Because don't try and pussyfoot around this shit. Mina is a gossip hound. Mina even herself knows this. She is a gossip hound. And Mei, for her own reasons, would be a good contact to have. And Shota, for his own reasons, would also be a good contact. And Nezu, he is the smartest, alive, so amazing contact to have. And basically, Mina and Mei are just but aren't you like the teacher and the principal? And basically, they were thinking of replacements anyways. Basically, freaking Aizawa already knew this, that he was thinking of his own replacement, but wait, Nezu was thinking of a replacement? And basically, I'm not gonna name the replacements. Just say that they were thinking of replacements and that, that replacements do come in there and say that they aren't just, substitute. They are, complete replacements. Because of, certain thing. And, they are told prior to this that Mei and Mina, basically everyone is told, given the news that Mei and Mina, are given special jobs, which is why they can't be in school anymore. But no one is told what those freaking special jobs are because, well, Izuku is a soldier, a warrior, but a soldier, a warrior who likes to work in, his own secret ways and woes. And kind of Outer Heaven, they kind of have their own space, like the little space in Outer Heaven where they conduct their, different, contacts of Izuku. So he basically has different numbers that he can, get on, on the, eye of his. His new little doohickey that he has. That is just like, to the normal person, it seems like a normal freaking, like, oh, you lost your eye, freaking doohickey little thing. Like, it's not a little doohickey little thing. It's just random eye patch. No, it's more than that. It's his solid eye. It's his solid eye that he has. You can channel all those little numbers into a number for each person. And the number will have attached to it a name. Nezu, Shota, Mina, May. All these different numbers will have attached to them different names. And well, Outer Heaven will have its own little space where the contacts do their contact work. And well, the contacts also have in that space, well, their own rooms. Like doors. And each door leads to a separate room. And each room is the room of that contact. They will know the room by basically a little nameplate above the door that has the number and then the name of the person of the contact. So certain number, then Nezu, certain number, then Shota, certain number, then May, certain number, then Mina. And I know certain people are probably going to kill me because I didn't do Shinso. But hey, whatever. I mean, Mina's a gossip hound. Not having her here is, like, to me, blasphemy. Of the highest order. Plus, I get to have a little Mina freaking Izuku ship. Where they kind of have a thing, but, May, in her own kind of weird way, kind of interrupts it. And it's like, it's kind of funny how their dynamic works. And, the two grown-ups, Nazu and, Shota. It's just the four contacts of Izuku. Of his solid eye. Because dude literally lost a freaking eye. And if you're worrying about like Gentle Criminal and La Brava and everything else, well, dude as a freaking soldier, he will be sent in to, cleanup crew. Honestly, if he wanted information, he would just solid eye and, pop up whoever he thought would have the best information on these peeps. He would obviously be able to see this, like, La Brava from, like, a long distance. He'd be able to see a girl on a ceiling, probably feeding information to this guy who's doing this. Nazu could probably tell him that. And Aizawa could probably tell him, other things that would probably be useful. And hey, don't count me and me, and Mina, everybody could probably tell him some useful stuff that'd be useful for the fight ahead. Whatever he needed to do, he would need to do. And so, La Brava and Gentle Criminal would be taken care of. And the whole thing with Island, that's also taken care of pretty good. And David Shield basically worrying about Outer Heaven and basically also the whole fact of Shadow Moses Island. Basically, Izuku telling him not to worry, that he's not going to try to monopolize on him, try to screw him over. It's just places that he has under his banner, under his thing. Outer Heaven and Shadow Moses Island are his things. Just his things. Okay? David Shield, you don't need to worry. And so, that'd be a huge, big relief for David Shield. Basically, making everything a lot better. And Wolfram and his buddy, like 9, dude with 9 different quirks. It also get taken care of pretty good. I mean, you're forgetting Izuku has all of his training, plus now he has a solid eye. Dude is freaking lit. Unless some other shit like dude like freaking Agent 57. Unless someone else like Agent 57 comes along, dude is freaking set. Which means like basically the other time whenever I said tone set, since Izuku is set, that basically means Doodles.